Good day, global citizens. Welcome to another episode of Dr.Fajembola'S Opinion. This is a platform where research meets understanding and legacy. Today, I'm happy to bring you a well-learned senior colleague to take us through a topic which is the first time we'll be taking on this platform, Toxoplasma Gondii. Actually, the last time I went through Toxoplasma Gondii was when I was in medical school, and when I had a cat. When I read a cat, someone gave me a gift of a cat. So I was like, okay, let's use some of our medical knowledge on this. So thank you so much, sir, for joining us on this platform. Please join me to welcome Dr. Mohammed Nasiru Wana. Prof, how are you doing? Welcome. Okay. Don't worry, Prof, you can speak.
Okay, thank you for having me in this platform, and thank you for the opportunity to be able to share my research work done on the Toxoplasma gondii. Thank you for having me once again.
Thank you so much for honoring our invite, Professor Wana. Thank you for being patient with her. I know I've been extending and extending on what are they calling it on our discussion. So let's take our audience through the profile of Professor Mohammed Nasiru Wana. He was born and raised up in Gombe, Gombe State. He completed his primary and secondary education in Gombe, later proceeded to University of Maiduguri, where he earned a bachelor's degree. After his NYSC at Kebbi State, he was employed as a graduate assistant by Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University. Later, he enrolled for Masters in Applied Parasitology and graduated in 2015. In 2017, he was at Universiti Putra Malaysia for his doctoral degree in Medical Parasitology and completed before the COVID-19 struck. He returned to the university where he served and continued to teach and research, rising through the ranks to lecturer 1. In search for more challenges and better contribution to knowledge and skill, he joined the Federal University of Health Sciences, Azare in Bauchi State. Currently, is the pioneer head of microbiology. To give back to the community, he founded a charitable organization called End Neglected Tropical Diseases Initiative and commenced activities early this year in Bauchi, Gombe, Yobe, Jigawa and Kano State. Lastly, he's happily married with 5 children. Congratulations, sir. Your profile is quite inspiring. The marriage aspect, the pioneer aspect, the impact aspect. Now let's look at what global citizens, what are people saying about Toxoplasma gondii globally. The first is from Massimo, where he or she said, a common brain parasite, Toxoplasma gondii, which infects an estimated 10 to 30% of people in the United States and up to 1/3 of global population, actively interferes with neural signaling far more than previously understood. They're talking about effect of Toxoplasmosis on brain. The second is from Brandon Lu, MD, where he said cat exposure is linked to approximately 2 times higher odds of schizophrenia. One proposed mechanism is from Toxoplasma gondii infection. The last is from Whitehead Institute, where they say mixed Toxoplasma gondii, a parasite that infects 1 in 4 people worldwide. Whitehead Institute Sebastian Lurido joins MIT President Sally Combrot on Curiosity Unbounded to unpack this complex biology. I just got this tweet a few minutes ago from Twitter, which is known as X, and I find out that there's a lot of discussion going on Toxoplasmosis currently. So, Prof, when I read your paper, I know it's been a while I read it because it's been a while we wanted to discuss. I love the discussion. It shows, the publication shows this is someone who loves what he does and who knows what he's doing. And I found that you also have a series of publications on Toxoplasmosis. So it's like you are not just a loud voice, you are a knowledgeable voice on the subject matter. who are the hosts of Toxoplasma gondii?
Okay. Thank you once again for allowing me to be able to speak on the topic of my interest, which is Toxoplasma gondii. And but a point of correction, I'm not a professor, I'm a senior lecturer, because
Okay,
it
sir.
will be a big crime academically to call a professor where you are not at that particular level. So
Noted,
coming
sir.
back to the topic, Toxoplasma is one of the topics, and it's also one of the neglected tropical diseases. It is an infection that is generally called toxoplasmosis. Uh, that's the name of the disease, and the parasite who causes that particular disease is the one that is called Toxoplasma gondii. So the word Gondii comes from some wild name of some wild animals where that parasite was first discovered, and that's how the people named that particular infection. And as you have rightly said during the introduction, it is an infection that has affected people globally, and it is the major cause of suicide attempts. It has been a major cause of people in prisons because of some criminal activities. It has been a major cause of disabilities as a result of Toxoplasma gondii infection. So that's just about it. And it has a cat or felines generally as a definitive cause, while all other mammals, including humans, they serve as what we call intermediate cause. So that's the link between the Toxoplasma gondii and mammals together with the feline cause, which cat has been implicated as one of the major transmitters of Toxoplasma.
I believe if you are not a cat owner, thank you so much for that, Dr. Wana. If you're not a cat owner, or if you know someone who is a cat owner, this is an avenue to share this video with them and to also to watch this video. I know you've started with a lot of things, telling us a lot of information about toxoplasmosis, and many people don't know like, oh, this is the extent of toxoplasmosis, the effect of toxoplasmosis in our society. And people can even find themselves in prisons due to infection from toxoplasmosis gondii. So, what are three things, Prof? If anyone should take three things from this video, what are three things we should know about Toxoplasmosis gondii?
Okay, Toxoplasma, if you people should be able to try to understand that this is one of the surprise things that happens within the food chain, and it is one of the intrigues that always throws people into a kind of wilderness, trying to understand what actually really happens. I did my PhD at Universiti Putra Malaysia. Initially, when I contacted my supervisor, and we are planning to look at this issue of toxoplasma, the curiosity we had at that time was that we all know that uh, the relationship between cats and rats that exists, because a cat is always a natural enemy to rats. But it becomes an unfortunate thing or a surprise thing where you see a cat and rat dining on the same table, and that brings something different along the food chain. And it's a surprise many that how is it that the predator-prey relationship uh, tend to something that the rat and cat are dining on the same table. So that prompted us to be able to explore that what really actually happened with the rat, that it lost its fear for the cat and come even closer to the cat. And that's the beginning of the investigation. And that's why for the whole 3 years of my PhD at the University of Malaysia, we were examining those relationships. What altered the sequence that makes even the rat come even close to the cat? And that's the beginning of it. And we look at the Toxoplasma gondii in that particular angle, and we were able to look at the abundance, because when you heard of Malaysia, you heard of a country where food is not a problem. Not even to humans, but even to animals, food is not a problem, because food is one of the common things in Malaysia. So there are abundant number of animals. There are stray cats. There are also domestic ones. And there are available of cats in Malaysia that roams about the streets, in the houses, and everywhere you go, you see available number of cats. So that's what prompted us to be able to investigate this particular scenario. And it is only in Malaysia where you can be able to see shops around the street who are selling foods for cats only. And that's tell you that the nature that people have in the close contact they have with cats. So looking at the life cycle of Toxoplasma gondii, it is an infection where the eggs, or we call it the oocysts, are being excreted together with the cat faces to the outside environment. So, and that's why cat becomes the definitive cause, because the union of this particular male and female gametes of this Toxoplasma gondii occurred only in felines, of which cat is one of the principal actors. And when they pass out their faces, they pass out together with what we call oocysts. But at that time, we call it unsporulated oocysts, because it didn't become so infective at that particular stage. And after 1 to 5 days, it becomes sporulated, and then it becomes infective. And as you know, when the feces get to the outside environment together with the eggs, somehow the feces got disintegrated. And when it got disintegrated in the outside environment, it finds its way to either vegetables or to either some food substances. And sometimes it even get lodged along the nails of the fingers. And that's why if someone ingested contaminated substances together with these eggs, and then he or she becomes infected. And that's why I said at the beginning, all mammals are the intermediate host, including humans. So that's to tell you that that sporulated oocyst becomes infective, and the moment it is ingested in the body, into the body of mammals, then it quickly hatches in the body of mammals. And when it hatches, it releases another stage which is called tachyzoids. And those tachyzoids multiply quickly in number, and they generally follow the blood circulation. They goes into the lungs, into the liver, into the heart, and they finally settle in some organs, of which brain is one of the common area where this tachyzoid gets settled. And the tachyzoid quickly changes into the chronic form, which is called the brachioid. And when it changes into the brachioid, it now forms a cyst. So the cyst there that is also formed, if it is not in humans, if it is in other mammals like bats, okay, sorry, if it is in other mammals, it gets into the tissue, it forms a cyst, and when someone consumes that particular meat that has that particular cyst, he or she can also become infected. And by extension, by saying that the tachyzoid goes into the brain, it settles into the brain, and it affects some signals that have been there in the brain, and that's what causes the alteration to the olfactory lobe, to the alteration of some signals that control the brain of all mammals. So actually, this is what happened with the situation, and nature makes it possible for the parasite to continue to maintain its life cycle, and that's why rat have been there as a natural intermediate host. Because to maintain the life cycle of the Toxoplasma gondii, rat has to be there. And the parasites also try to block those signals so that the rat cannot notice the cat, and the cat have access to the rat. When it is eaten, then the life cycle continues in that particular direction. And that's how it maintains its own life cycle there. But humans and all other mammals are serving as accidental hosts. And that's what makes it so complicated when humans join the cycle of that Toxoplasma gondii.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Wana. You give an elaborate elaborate answer to the question. Um, at the beginning, we mentioned how toxoplasmosis affects the brain, and in one of the tweets, we talked about schizophrenia. What role does toxoplasmosis play in schizophrenia?
Yes, because schizophrenia is one of the mental illness, and it sets in because some of the brain channels has been compromised in one way or the other, and that's what makes the schizophrenia or schizophrenia to be able to manifest itself. And because it is a mental illness, there are some areas within the brain that regulate the activities within the human body, and that has to do with what we call dopamine and chymeric acid. These are the two most important compounds that control the brain activities, and and because the parasite has a preference of staying in the brain, because in the whole body of mammals, the parasite chooses to reside in the brain. And when it resides in the brain, it tries to affect those signals that control most of the activities in the brain. And that what leads to that what we call mental illness. And part of the mental illness is what we call the schizophrenia, where the behavior of that individual that is affected is being altered. So it's something that leads to behavioral change within that angle. And it can lead to memory loss, and it can lead to imbalance, and so many other things that relate with that particular infection, which causes the schizophrenia as one of the common signs that has been so far been investigated. And that's why initially I said that it is one of the causes of suicide attempts, because if someone has schizophrenia, there are chances that he may likely commit suicide, he may end up in prison, he may end up in some difficult situation that he or she may not likely want to be.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Wana. We've asked a few questions, but you've given us lots of information. And like I tell our audience, this is also a learning platform for me. As they are learning, I'm also learning. I'm refreshing my knowledge. Dr. Wana, we know toxoplasmosis gondii affects humans, and it's an ubiquitous protozoan parasite. What are the main markers of Toxoplasma gondii impact on humans, or that we can see in our society that, okay, shoot, this is Toxoplasma. You've talked about it already, but can you just remind us, okay, this is what we see as the impact of Toxoplasmosis gondii on humans?
Okay, thank you for this question again. As I said earlier on, it has so many impacts on the human body, and those impacts can be measured in different ways. As I said earlier on, once the sporozoid, which is the infective state, gets into the body, it hatches and it releases what is called tachyzoids. Those tachyzoids, I said, they follow the blood circulation and they move all over the body. And it has major consequences in different ways. The consequences, if it is in pregnant mothers, because the immune system has been down, the tachyzoid has a chance to grow, to be able to breach the barrier, the placental barrier, and get to the unborn baby. And in that situation, when it gets to the unborn baby, it has a chances where a child can be born with what we call hydrosis, with accumulations of water in the brain. Because even in the unborn baby, tachyzoid can also go into the brain and causes serious issues there. That's one part of it. In another way, also, if it gets into the HIV patients, like people that are immune compromised, it is so severe it can lead to deaths instantly, because within the toxoplasma, which I will talk later, it has different strains. It has type 1, type 2, and type 3. depending on the geographical locations all over the world. And those strains, they vary in terms of the severity of infections which they cause. And their severity depends on that particular host. We have talked about the issue with pregnant mothers. I have talked about the issue that happens in the HIV compromised patients. And even in children under 5, it also has consequences in that one. And that's tell you the impact it will be able to make when it affects individuals, not rats. And that's the replica of what also is going on within the rat if rats happen to be infected.
Thank you so much, sir, for that. I'd like your emphasis on pregnant women and children that it affects them. Um, we are looking at, you talked about the strains of Toxoplasma gondii, and people, when you say Toxoplasma gondii, people just say, okay, is a protozoan, but what are the strains of Toxoplasma gondii? Now, I know you have publications of Toxoplasma gondii, and this question is, yes, so what are the strains we should know of Toxoplasma gondii?
Okay, and I said the strains are what quite distinguish the what we call Toxoplasma gondii. And you remember the hierarchical system of arrangement, where you started from the kingdom arrangement, it goes down to the level where you have the genus and the species. Well, if you say Toxoplasma gondii, you are talking about the genus and the species. But there are what we call the subspecies levels, where the organism is further being subdivided. And as I said before, that subdivision lead to distribution of this parasite all over the world, where in Europe you see type 1 and type 2 are commonly present, but in other African and Asian countries you see type 3. But it is also common for you to be able to see type 1, type 2, and type 3 in that particular environment. And I said the difference in those trends lead to the severity or outcome of this infection. There are types of strains that are not so severe because this distribution that we are talking about, it categorizes the strains into mild, moderate, and severe types. So there are those that are just moderate, they are Toxoplasma gondii strains, but once they get in, they causes like a mild form of infection. There are those that causes moderate one, and the type 3 mostly causes the severity of the infection. And that's how they have been categorized. And each one of them has its own distribution, as I said, all over the world. But there are those that overlap, where you can see those strains overlapping within the different regions of the world.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Wana. What should we know about Toxoplasma gondii in Malaysia? I know you talked about, okay, Malaysia, you did your doctoral degree in Malaysia. So what should we know about Toxoplasma gondii in Malaysia as a country? I'm taking to Malaysia, I'm not taking to Gombe or other states. I have my reason for that.
Okay, that's a quite interesting topic. And as I said earlier on, I love to talk about Toxoplasma gondii because I spent the whole 3 years looking at it from different angles, and I have done an exciting work on the Toxoplasma gondii, which makes me feel confident to always speak about what is there. So let me give you a background of what to the audience what we did there. We try to explore this pattern to be able to see actually what is going on in this type of relationship. And if you talk about anything, schizophrenia, suicide, mental illness, or whatever, what actually happens there, that's what we replicated and investigated in Malaysia. So initially what we did in the research is to go out to the environment because there are so many suicide cases in Malaysia. There are so many previous research that has found out the antibodies of this Toxoplasma gondii in people that are there in the prisons, in HIV patients, and in people who are in the mental asylum. There are several research that have been conducted, and that antibodies of this Toxoplasma gondii has been found within their system. So there, what we did was to say, okay, let's look at it in the Malaysian context also, because this research came out from Malaysians, And okay, we said, okay, let's investigate to see. So at the initial stage, what we did, because in my supervisory team there, we have professors of companion animals, and we have people who are from the neuroscience, and then we have people who are experts and uh, molecular studies. So basically, what we did at the beginning was to go into the communities. We reach out to different areas in the community where we collect the cat fecal samples, and then we move them into the laboratories. And then I collaborated also with the veterinary teaching hospital there within the university, because in Malaysia, they have within the Universiti Putra Malaysia, the faculty veterinary, that is the faculty of veterinary medicine, they houses a very big teaching hospital where most of the animals are being kept there under treatment. And one of my supervisors happened to be there. So we went there to the hospital because cats are on admissions regularly. I was connected with the supervisor where we collected cat fecal samples regularly from the hospitals into our laboratory. So all what we did there is to search for these oocysts that we mentioned, these stages of the toxoplasma. We searched them microscopically, and we were able to extract them from the cats that are infected. And fortunately, we were able to get them from the stray cats, from the cats that are under admissions, and also from the domestic cats. So we collected those oocysts in the laboratory, and then we were able to sporulate those oocysts. And once we get them sporulated, that's the first stage of what we did. And then the second is to get albino Worcester rats. We were able to procure rats, and then we reared these rats in the animal house. And under some conditions, using gastric garbage, we were able to inoculate these sporulated oocysts into the rats manually. We inoculate them into the rats, and then we monitor the rats for like 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, because in the experimental setup, there are those that were not infected, and there are groups that were infected with type 1, there are groups that were infected type 2 and type 3. And that's how we carried out that research. So after 2 weeks, we were able to bleed the rats from their tail. We collected blood and we carried out serological tests. And we were able to find out that these rats are affected with the Toxoplasma gondii as we carried out the experiment. So when we know that they are infected, we monitor them because there are some certain periods where the trichizoid will leave the blood circulation and get to the brain. That is about 4 to 5 weeks. We monitor the rats up to 4 to 5 weeks. And when they reach that particular 5 weeks, we now expose them to experimental things, talking about monitoring now the actual behavioral change that happened in those rats. And then we carried out some series of tests where we first did what is called urine discrimination test. In that urine discrimination test, we create something like a quadrant, and that quadrant has urine deposit on it with the dog urine, just normal water, cat urine, and we were able to use another one as a scent. So that odor discrimination scent, a rat was placed into the quadrant, and we monitor the activity of that rat through a digital camera, where the rat chooses a preference to move to the cat urine instead of all other urines within that particular cage. And that's the first one. The second one, we tested what is called fear and anxiety. We tested fear and anxiety through what is called elevated plus mesh. It is a mesh whereby it is like a T. It is assumed that when you place a rat into the high level, you begin to expose what is called the fear and anxiety, and that's what we tested in that particular situation. And finally, we carried out what is called memory and retention loss, where we expose the rat into what we call Morris water maze. It is a very tank It is a very big tank filled with water where the rat was developed, and there are some cues. You drop the rat and you train the rat how to be able to identify an escape route. And those rats that were infected were not able to have memory retentions all over. And those rats that were not infected were able to trace the cues and were able to escape from danger. All these things was measured in the laboratory to test that behavioral change over time. And finally, when that experiment was over, those rats were sacrificed, and we remove all the organs in the intestine, which we search for the presence of this parasite within the organs, and also we expose the brain, and we search for the presence of these two important compounds, which are dopamine and chyronic acid expression within the brain. And we were able to find some incredible results, and that's what makes us link Toxoplasma gondii with some behavioral change that is called schizophrenia within the animal, particularly within the human cycle.
Thank you so much for that. You give us a elaborate knowledge on that, and I believe our audience will enjoy this video as much as I enjoy reading the publication. I greatly encourage our audience to read the publication because I enjoyed reading the publication. That's what made me look forward to discussing with Dr. Wana. There is management of toxoplasmosis has been going on now for decades. What can you say about the management of T. Gondii in previous decades and in the next decade? Do you feel there will be any change or progress in the management of Toxoplasmosis gondii, especially in countries like Nigeria? We know Malaysia,
Okay.
and I'm not trying to paint any country as perfect. We know Malaysia, China, some parts of Asia are, in terms of development, they are more, and in terms of medical or health facilities. How will I put it? Is it health or medical technology? They are more because they have constant electricity. But where do you see us on the management of Toxoplasmosis gondii in the next decade?
Okay. There are several instances that I will be able to give when you consider Toxoplasma gondii. Toxoplasma gondii is something that requires continuous assessment of cats to see if they are likely been infected with those eggs of this Toxoplasma gondii, because that's the major culprit. And we know the relationship people have with their pets. It is the close companionship between the humans and their pets that always brings this particular issue, whether in Malaysia, in Nigeria, or globally. The only thing that can save us from this is by regular checking of these cats to see if they have this particular infection, because there are some signs that normally are being shown within the cats if they are infected, because they shed these oocysts for like 1 to 2 weeks, and they shed it in millions numbers. And within that period of shedding, there are some key areas, or there are some things that have been noticed, like the cat normally comes down with some fever and some other changes abnormally within their system. So the moment that thing has been noticed, that cat has to be quickly moved into the hospital for a proper checkup. And when that cat has been checked, particularly the poop, it has to be collected and get tested. If there are Toxoplasma gondii, that cat has to be restricted so that the feces can be collected and be dumped safely. That's one part of it. And second thing that always happens is that we talk about different scenarios. I don't think in Nigeria what is missing is what is called responsible pet ownership. People own up pets, but they don't care about they don't care about their beddings, they don't care about their feeding and whatever that
Vaccination,
comes
nothing.
from that one. And that's what makes it difficult. So we don't practice what is called responsible pet ownership in Nigeria. But if that one is being practiced, definitely you will see the level of changes that is going to come along that way. And in Malaysia, remember I told you they have a teaching hospital, veterinary teaching hospital, where all animals, once they are sick, they will be on admission. And in that hospital, you can relate it with our human teaching hospitals in Nigeria. Cats are under admission, and you will see the owner very disturbed and very serious that one of the members of the family is being sick and is under admission in the hospital. And I doubt if there are a teaching hospital that are better than that animal teaching hospital in Nigeria. They have a sophisticated hospital and well furnished, well taken care of. That you see people are very serious. I should have even shared some pictures, but within that hospital, the more we move into the hospital, they will tell you that there are no cameras. You have to respect the privacy of their clients, so no pictures is allowed. But that's the way it's supposed to be. So that's the first instance. We need to embrace what is called responsible pet ownership if we want to do away with toxoplasma or any other infection that is coming from cat. Remember, it is not only about toxoplasma. Even rabies has been suspected to come from cat, not even dogs, but cats are also being implicated. So the welfare of cats are very important all over the world if we want to do away with all these things. Let me share some instances with you. Recently, I have been collaborating with some researchers in the US. They were able to find out that cat litter, that is the cat feces, has been generating some billions of dollars now in the United States of America.
Wow.
So, and because of that, those researchers have been curious. So, if those cat feces are generating billions of dollars, because people in some industries are utilizing those foods in order to generate some other products which I will not mention. And there are people who are engaged in collecting those cat faces from the household into those particular companies. And the fear is that those people collecting the cat faces may likely get infected with Toxoplasma gondii. And that's why they say something has to be done in order to stop those oocysts from sporulation and becoming infected so that they will ultimately get infect those people that are working in that poop industry. So that's the research that we are undertaking now in order to be able to identify some compounds that can inactivate or that can stop that oocysts from sporulations when they are being collected. And it's giving US a very huge amount of money in that particular direction. And that's why even Nigeria, we need to copy that one because the cat poop is giving a lot of money in the US, and something has to be done in this area to be able to take care of this situation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wana, for sharing the future of management of Toxoplasmosis gondii. I'm optimistic countries like Nigeria will emulate more developed countries in the management of pets and also management of these parasites and other parasites. And Dr. Wana, when we're talking about management in Nigeria, you said that in Malaysia they had a teaching hospital that was so good. Now, for that, many people used to look at it, okay, their government. Any Nigerian that listens to that will be like, that listen to that, that is watching this video, and yeah, you said, they'll be like, it's their government. Their government is good. We have bad we have bad government. That's why. It's not their government that beats the hospital. Why can't our own government beat the hospital? And one thing I find out that why I'm coming up also with a platform like this is because the government cannot do it alone. Everybody needs to join hands. We need to collaborate to be able to move the country forward in the health sector. Dr. Wana, what do you see? What can relevant stakeholders do to effectively curb Toxoplasmosis gondii?
Okay, this one is a very important question, and like what I have been saying before, these things are zoonotic diseases. And when you talk about a zoonotic disease, you have to apply the recent trend that is going all over the world. There are issues of One Health that we need to embrace if really we need to make progress when it comes to those issues of zoonotic diseases and neglected diseases. You can't do without One Health approach. And One Health approach is talking about integration, it's talking about synergy between the different sectors that works in health, and also it's talking about the issue where you have the environment, where you have the humans, and where you have the animals, because you have to integrate these three if you want to live in a very good ecosystem. And that's why there is need to have that synergy so that we can be able to handle it. And another factor that you raised about government, there are things that government will do, there are things that government will not do. And that's why initially I talked about the issue of responsible pet ownership. You can't ignore all these things. Responsible pet ownership is within the purview, is within the mandate of people who are owning those animals to be able to provide all the necessary things for them. What is required for government is to be able to set machineries in place so that whenever there is need for a regular animal checkup, they have to be at that particular hospital or anywhere so that they can get tested. That is what is supposed to be done on the side of government. But as far as I know, we have veterinary doctors that are doing their best. But sometimes when people are doing their best, they need to get motivated in what they are doing, because once the animals are sick, ultimately at the end, humans may likely also become sick because of this zoonotic nature of it. But sometimes, as you can see, we give more priority to the human health rather than animal health. And that's what brings some of the major challenges that we are facing. But as far as we embrace the One Health approach, we look at the environment, we look at the humans, we look at animals all together holistically, definitely we'll be able to achieve successes in terms of how we address the issue of this zoonotic disease.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Wana. One of the questions which I rarely ask our guest researchers, I ask some guest researchers who had, like, if I see that, oh, this research is huge and it has huge impact, not just a peer review, is what challenges did you face during the research when you were doing this research for this particular publication? What challenges did you face as a researcher?
Okay, this is a very big question, and it is something that every researcher faces when you are trying to carry out some research of such magnitude. And there are a series of challenges, but thank God at the end it was we were able to overcome those challenges. But one thing that that we were able to adopt that time is teamwork. I was able to be under a supervisor that is hardworking, that always want to support his own candidates during their studies. And that one allows us to be able to navigate all the difficult terrains, right from the planning to the execution, and even to the dissemination of the result, that is publications. We were able to overcome all these things. And at the end, we were able to get those results. Publications are good, but they are not the things I enjoy most during my PhD. What I enjoyed most was that during my PhD, there is a program at the University of Malaysia. It is called 3-minute thesis presentation, and all postgraduate students are being invited to come and present their thesis in just 3 minutes. You tell the whole audience, and that audience cut across all people within the university, people from engineering, people from social science and whatever, and you have to present the whole that research in just 3 minutes. And you want your audience to be able to listen to you, understand everything, and be able to appreciate what you are doing. And that's the beauty of my PhD. During that, my PhD, I was in the Faculty of Medical Sciences. And during that 3-minute thesis, I was able to come Second, at the Faculty of Science, when I presented my research, which received a lot of commendations, a lot of applause because of the work that we have done at that particular time. And from there, we moved to the postgraduate school where all the students that are doing their postgraduate, we met at the postgraduate school and we presented our research also. At that particular platform also, I emerged as a winner in that particular category. Then finally, we moved into the final stage. That is at the university level where all research were being presented. And at that time, I think I missed out at the finals. If not, my research was one of the best in terms of presentation, in terms of arrangement and whatever. But I became short that time. I think I was 3 minutes with 1 second, additional 1 second, and I was disqualified on that particular note. But my research was judged to be excellent. It was exceptional, and it's one of the few research at that time in the university that has gone to address some of the critical challenges when it comes to the issue of Toxoplasma gondii within that particular platform.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Wana. One thing when people read research, and one thing, another reason why I bring good researchers to teach us and to tell us their publication from their perspective is because reading the publication is very different from listening and learning from the researcher. And minus that, many people just come across research, but except you're a researcher, you won't know that, oh, these are some challenges that this researcher might have faced or might face during this research. So I like researchers to tell the audience the challenges they face. So they know that, oh, this is the challenge this person faced. It wasn't easy. Or if I'm to go into similar research in the future, this is what I might face. This is what I should avoid. Because also from our listeners are not just laymen. They are also upcoming scientists, upcoming researchers, budding researchers who might want to go into the topic any guest researcher presents. So thank you so much, Dr. Wana, for taking us, Nasiru Wana, for taking us through Toxoplasmosis gondii. Actually, I wanted to narrow you when I saw your publication. I wanted to narrow you. Okay, let us face Malaysia only. But I just discovered that discussing with you will go across different countries. That includes Nigeria. And I'm optimistic if you're a future guest on this platform, we'll discuss further Toxoplasmosis gondii in areas or aspects we've not discussed. So thank you once again, Dr. Wana, for honoring the invite. Thank you for sharing your expertise and also your time with us, your precious time with us.
Thank you. Okay.
Yes, so global citizens, Dr. Fajembola'S opinion remains a platform where research meets understanding and legacy. One thing I encourage you is to go through the guest researchers publication. This is one of those publications I highly encourage you to read, especially if you are someone who has cats or you know someone who has cats. I believe we should platform like this should change our ideology on our health. And it's not just our health, human health, it's also animal health and also environmental health. It should change the way we look at pets, it should change the way we handle pets. And I believe if we change our ideology on how we handle human health, animal health, and environmental health, to build a better and healthier ecosystem for everyone. So have a blessed week, everyone.